Hello and welcome to another episode of the Halloween Podcast. I am your host, Lyle Perez. You're listening to episode 20 of our special series, The Dark Record, where we pull back the curtain on strange, unsettling, and often forgotten events from history's shadowed corners. In January of 1909, something strange gripped the state of New Jersey. It wasn't a storm or a sickness, but a creature. Dozens of towns, from the edges of the Pine Barrens to the streets of Camden and Philadelphia, reported eerie sightings. Hooved footprints appeared overnight in fresh snow. Trolley cars were attacked, schools shut down. Vigilante groups armed with rifles roamed the woods. The newspapers called it the Leeds Devil. Some described it as a kangaroo with wings. Others said it had the face of a horse and the scream of a banshee. It flew, it stalked, and for 1 week, it terrified an entire region. The next entry into the dark record, the Jersey Devil sightings of 1909. Let's begin. To understand why this wave of panic hit with such force and why it stuck, we have to go back much further than 1909, because the creature at the center of this story isn't just a cryptid, it's folklore, it's family history, and it's tied to one of the oldest colonial legends in America. Long before newspapers screamed about hoofprints in the snow, the legend of the Jersey Devil was already part of local lore. It goes back to the early 1700s in the dense and shadowed woods of what we now call the Pine Barrens. The story begins with a woman named Mother Leeds. She lived in a small, isolated home. Some say near Estelville, others claim it was closer to Leeds Point. According to the legend, Mother Leeds already had 12 children. When she discovered she was pregnant with the 13th, she threw up her hands and cursed the unborn child. "Let this one be the devil," she said to have exclaimed. And according to the story, that's exactly what happened. On a stormy night, sometime around 1735, Mother Leeds went into labor surrounded by midwives and family. The child was born normal at first, a healthy baby boy. But within moments, it began to change. Its body stretched, its limbs grew long and thin. Hooves sprouted where feet should have been. Wings tore from its back, leathery and black. Its face twisted into something not human, not animal, something in between. With a scream, the creature attacked everyone in the room, then flew up the chimney and disappeared into the night. That version of the story, dramatic, demonic, theatrical, was passed down for generations. But the truth, like most folklore, is a bit more tangled. Some historians believe the legend may have grown out of local disdain for a real man named Daniel Leeds. He was a British settler, political writer, and almanac publisher in colonial New Jersey. Leeds supported the royal governor, which made him deeply unpopular with Quaker neighbors. To make matters worse, he dabbled in astrology and mysticism, considered heretical by the Quakers. He was labeled evil, accused of being in league with dark forces. Over time, the Leeds family crest, featuring a dragon-like creature with bat wings and claws, became associated with the story. By the mid-17th century, locals were referring to the Leeds Devil, blaming it for lost livestock and eerie noises in the woods. It was a convenient scapegoat, a mix of political smear, religious superstition, and rural isolation. But somehow the name stuck. The Leeds Devil became the Jersey Devil. And by the time the 19th century rolled around, the legend had become a permanent part of South Jersey folklore. A story whispered at campfires, a warning to children, a thing people claimed to see just for a second in the woods. That was the myth. But in 1909, myth met reality. Something triggered a wave of sightings that would flood newspapers, panic entire towns, and put the Jersey Devil firmly into the national spotlight, and no one, not even the skeptics, could fully explain what happened. The week began quietly. On Saturday, January 16, 1909, reports came out of Woodbury, New Jersey, describing strange tracks in the snow. Hoof-like prints that didn't match any known animal. Some said they went straight across rooftops and tall fences without breaking stride. By Sunday morning, the same tracks were found in Bristol, Pennsylvania, across the Delaware River. There, a police officer claimed he saw a large flying creature with bat-like wings and a split hoof land near him. He fired his revolver, but the beast took off without a scratch. On Monday, things escalated. In Burlington, Camden, and Gloucester, locals woke up to find bizarre tracks in the snow again, miles of them, sometimes appearing on isolated rooftops, sometimes leading right up to houses and vanishing. In Gloucester, a trail of prints ran straight through the middle of a field, over fences, and even onto porches. People tried to follow them, but the tracks always disappeared in strange places. No scat, no hair, no animal at the end of the trail. On Tuesday, the creature reportedly reappeared, this time attacking a trolley car in Haddon Heights. Passengers described a large winged animal swooping at the vehicle, rattling the windows and scratching at the roof. Police responded, and again, shots were fired, and again, nothing was found. That same day in Camden, a group of firefighters claimed they saw the creature on a rooftop and tried to blast it with a fire hose. It flew off into the night. By midweek, panic was spreading. Schools in Camden and elsewhere began to close, not because of snow, but out of fear. Parents kept their children home. Workers didn't show up to their jobs. Posses armed with shotguns and rifles patrolled the edges of the Pine Barrens, hoping to spot the thing. Some towns even instituted curfews, and the sightings kept coming. In Mount Holly, a woman claimed to have been chased down the street by a creature with glowing red eyes. In Collingswood, police said they saw the devil flying between houses. In Ewing Township, residents described a scream in the sky that sent dogs whimpering under porches. In Moorestown, a chicken coop was found torn apart with no tracks leading to or away from it. By Thursday, January 21st, hysteria was at a peak. Local zoos and museums were inundated with calls asking what kind of animal it could be. The Philadelphia Zoo offered a $10,000 reward for the creature's capture, dead or alive. That led to hoaxes. One man attempted to pass off a kangaroo with wings glued to its back as the Jersey Devil. Another paraded a taxidermy mashup of different animals, trying to cash in. Even into Friday and Saturday, new reports surfaced. The creature was spotted in Salem, then in Millville, then in towns bordering Delaware, and even as far west as Maryland. Everywhere it went, it left confusion, fear, and a trail of impossible footprints. By the end of the week, more than 1,000 reports had been made across the region. Nearly every newspaper in New Jersey and Pennsylvania ran front-page headlines. The story wasn't just a legend anymore. For 7 days in the winter of 1909, the Jersey Devil was real to thousands of people. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, it was gone.
If you thought goldenly breaded McDonald's chicken couldn't get more golden, think Golder, because new sweet and smoky special edition gold sauce is here. Made for your chicken favorites at participating McDonald's for a limited time.
The sightings stopped, but the questions didn't. What had really happened during that week in January 1909? Was it mass hysteria? A large bird mistaken for something more sinister? A hoax that spiraled out of control? Or was there something stranger, lurking in the woods, something that defied explanation. In the weeks that followed, newspapers tried to calm the public with science. Some zoologists suggested the tracks could have been made by cranes or herons, large wading birds with long legs and odd gaits that might leave confusing prints in snow. The sandhill crane in particular was mentioned. It stood nearly 4 feet tall and had a wingspan of over 6 feet. It wasn't native to New Jersey but had been seen in the region before. Some ornithologists said a starving, disoriented bird in winter could explain the strange behavior. But not everyone bought that theory. Others believed the whole thing had been a case of public suggestion turned into panic. The newspapers had sensationalized the early reports, leading people to see what they expected to see. In other words, fear itself became the monster. And there were those who simply refused to let go of the legend. They pointed to the tracks, meandering for miles across snow, over fences, and onto roofs. Or the people who swore they'd seen it with their own eyes. Police officers, firefighters, teachers, factory workers. These weren't just bored townsfolk in need of entertainment. These were people who, for a brief moment, truly believed they had seen something impossible. One of the more famous hoaxes came from Norman Jeffries, a well-known Philadelphia promoter. Seeing an opportunity to cash in on the hysteria, Jeffries staged the capture of the Jersey Devil and displayed it at the Arch Street Museum. His devil was, in fact, a kangaroo he had borrowed from a friend at the zoo. He glued on wings and claws and painted it with green stripes. He later admitted the hoax, but not before hundreds had paid to see it. Even with explanations and hoaxes revealed, the panic of 1909 left a permanent mark. The Jersey Devil was no longer just a folktale whispered in the Pine Barrens. It was now a cultural symbol, strange, feared, and embedded in the identity of New Jersey itself. Over time, the creature's image solidified. A bat-winged, horse-faced, cloven-hoofed monster with a long neck and a screech that could curdle blood. It appeared in roadside attractions, postcards, horror stories, even Halloween decorations. In 1938, the Works Progress Administration officially declared the Jersey Devil New Jersey's own mythical monster. And in 1982, it was immortalized again when the New Jersey Devils hockey team adopted it as their mascot. Skeptics still say the events of 1909 were a case study in regional hysteria, a perfect storm of legend, winter isolation, newspaper sensationalism, and collective fear. But for many, the sightings were real, and the creature, whatever it was, never truly left. Because the thing about folklore is, it doesn't fade with time. It lingers, it mutates, it adapts to new generations, and sometimes it leaves tracks. That brings us to the end of episode 20 of The Dark Record. We followed the twisted tracks of the Jersey Devil, from whispered colonial curses to a full-blown mass panic that gripped New Jersey and its neighbors for a single, surreal week in 1909. Whether it was mass hysteria, a misunderstood animal, or something born from the darker corners of folklore, the creature became real the moment people believed they saw it. It shrieked through the headlines, clawed its way into the culture, and refused to be forgotten. Today, its face still stares back from merchandise, murals, and hockey jerseys. But for the people who lived through those 7 days of fear, who heard the screams, found the hoofprints, and peered into snowy woods wondering what might be watching back, it was never just a story. I still think about how a legend, something whispered between generations, can reach a boiling point. How quickly myth can move from paper to panic. It doesn't take much, just a few footprints, a scream in the night, and suddenly the whole world is watching the woods, remembered, retold, and now added to the record. Next time, we travel to a small village in southern Spain, where in 1971, faces began to appear in the concrete floor of a family's kitchen. They weren't painted, they weren't scratched, they just emerged, changing, watching, returning even after the floor was destroyed. We'll explore the Belmez faces, one of the most bizarre and persistent paranormal phenomena ever recorded. Until then, I'm Lyle Perez, and this has been the Halloween Podcast, presenting The Dark Record. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps keep the show alive and weird. You can also explore sources, extras, and more at our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Halloween Podcast or at our website, thehalloweenpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, legends don't die. They wait in the woods. Have a good night.
If you thought goldenly breaded McDonald's chicken couldn't get more golden, think Golder, because new sweet and smoky special edition gold sauce is here, made for your chicken favorites at participating McDonald's for a limited time.